Okay, yeah.
Don't make me yell at you now.
Everybody, this is RayeTheQuirkyHSP, and we are coming at you live from Hillsboro. Daddy, what's the temperature outside?
Hillsboro, Missouri.
Hillsboro, Missouri, USA, United States of America. Nowhere near the Gulf of America. We're sitting in my father's basement, and this is the second episode of 2025. And it is my extreme pleasure to announce and introduce to all of you my pop, the original Raye. Hello, Dad. So, okay, we'll start out with this. I can do it, but I'd rather you introduce yourself. So, tell the people who you are. And also, can you tell us about what I call your version of Facebook, your ham radio operation that's been in existence since before I was a thought?
Okay. But now, see, you asked me several different things.
I did. Okay. I just want to see if you were going to keep up.
First off, you asked me to introduce myself. Why do I have to introduce myself?
Because only you can do it the way that you can do it.
Actually, I would prefer you do it.
But I want you to encompass more than what I would say. Yes, sir. And I do have your PhD as on the thing.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's not really what I was speaking of. I'm just an old country boy from North Carolina. I was born and raised on the tobacco farms of North Carolina. The apartheid.
America's apartheid.
Yeah, well, it was apartheid. I don't care what they want to call it. That's what it was. It's apartheid. So I'm a product of the 40s, the late 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. So that is what has made me who I am. Growing up, I was a kind of odd person out in my family because of my views. My views went contrary to what your grandfather and your grandmother, that sort of thing, would see. Okay. In other words, Dad really worried about me because in the segregated South, I backed down from no one. I just did not, and that used to frighten Dad because he was afraid I was going to get hurt. Well, of course, as you know, being my daughter, you know that I went in the Army as soon as I finished high school when I was 17 years old. And I realized that as soon as I went into the military, I realized what I did not know. Our school system was poor. I didn't know very much at all. So I decided to educate myself, and that's what I spent the first, let's say, from 1960 when I went in, and when did I finish school? I'm speaking of my bachelor's degree when you were there. That was in 1970. Oh, that was it. Yeah, that was before we moved. And then, of course, I picked up a master's degree and then a PhD and that sort of thing. As you know, obviously, my specialty is biomedical engineering, biomedical research.
What is that?
Yeah, about medical, and it has to do with the interface between machines and human beings.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I worked. Even in the Army, that's where I worked. I taught biomedical in the Army for about 12 years, over 12 years at Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center in Aurora. People say Denver, but it was actually Aurora, Colorado. That's where you start growing up at, of course.
So that's why I don't sound like a Southerner?
Yeah, that's why. Because I refuse to teach my children this and that. I refuse to do that.
What's that?
Yeah, you know what it is. I simply refuse to do that, and made sure that you guys had a proper perspective of what the world was supposed to be about. And that's what I tried to do with my youngsters. If you guys made errors and what have you, of course I would correct you. Of course I would. But I tried not to raise you all like we were raised. Now, my father and mother were not, they didn't beat us down and were mean to us or anything of that nature. If we did something wrong, we'd be spanking, you know. But I was afraid of trouble. I've always been afraid of getting in trouble. Never been in trouble in my life. Not once in my entire life. So I was always afraid of that. And of course, I know you know this thing, but this is for your podcast. So it really depends. Now, but in the military, as a private, of course, once I began to find my way, I knew I had to do something different. by the time I was 25 years old, if anyone knows anything about the military, I was the first sergeant. In Korea. This was before you were born. I was the first sergeant. And then I became a one officer. And of course, you haven't been in the Army yourself. I retired as the chief warrant officer, CW3, at base CW3 before I got out. And then went on into the civilian world down there in Greenville Hospital System in South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina. I was the first black administrator there. And I've been first in a lot of those things, not by choice, but just by, I guess, circumstance, I guess. I spent about 6 years there. And of course, you were there part of that time. Uh, and then when I left the Greenville Hospital System, of course, I went to Texas. And I was on the administrative staff, very first black person there on the administrative staff. I spent about almost 8 years there.
I was at Hillcrest. This is where the Koresh dude that was in the cult. My daddy was working at that hospital when the Koresh dude had that cult that they had to go in there. Yeah. That was in the 80s?
Yeah. I forgot the year. It was in, I can't remember the year. It was in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, so if anybody's old enough to remember the Koresh cult, they had to go in there and bulldoze the compound and get people out of there.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, on some of the videos of the ATF officers, they're in the hospital, not just, I don't mean patients. We had patients also, but the ones that were walking around and being assigned to different places and whatever. That was me. That was showing them where to go, because I was responsible for facility engineering, for biomedical engineering, for computer technology, and also for telecommunications. So that was me. That was showing them around, right. And showing them where they could go and that sort of thing. So from there, I went to work. I don't really count Kentucky too much because I was only there for a short period of time. But I went to work for GE Medical for a couple years. Didn't like that. I did not like that.
Were you still doing? I remember.
I was still doing always biomedical. I did biomedical for 45 years.
Okay. So
I was always biomedical with GE Medical doing biomedical. So I was the regional. I won't say commander. I was a regional manager for let's see. I had part of Texas. I had part of Missouri, part of North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, part of South Carolina, Florida. Then I say Texas. I had Texas, Indiana, that sort of thing. So I was all over the place. Oftentimes I went up into the Northeast as well. As a matter of fact, Mazani and I would go to go to Boston because they had hospitals there.
I haven't made it to Massachusetts yet.
I just did not care for that. The G is a good company. I'm not denigrating anyone. I just did not like all the travel. So when I left there,
he's been on my flight benefits for 9 years and never went anywhere, y'all.
Anyway. But when I left there, that's when I went to PJC Healthcare, Barn Jewish Christian Healthcare, here in Missouri. I stayed there for 10 years, and I actually retired in 2008.
So do you prefer this climate over? And I know why you didn't go back home, but do you prefer the climate here over the climate in North Carolina?
Yes, I do. It's a more moderate climate. It's changing now, of course, with global warming. Of course, some people don't believe in global warming, especially the Trumpers that don't believe in global warming. Well, I'm a scientist, and it's real.
Yeah. So you're liking it before when you retired? You liked it?
Yes, that's why I stayed here. Yeah.
But now you prefer to be in North Carolina?
No.
No, why not?
No, I prefer
where you are. I got
Look, I've been all over the world. I've got sick of traveling. That's what you and Bazani would fussing at me about not wanting to go anywhere anymore. Well, I don't travel very much anymore. If I have to, I will. But basically, an introduction. I enjoy tinkering with items. As you know, I work on automobiles and stuff. Not as much now as I've gotten older. I don't care too much for it.
How old are you?
I'm 81 years old.
82,
I'll
a
be
couple of
82 in
months.
May.
In a couple of months.
And most people don't believe that I'm 81 years old, but I just look good.
Yeah.
You know.
Here we go.
Yeah. No, I'm not shy at all. You know, you damn look good. You know it.
Anyway, moving on to the second question. All right.
Anyway, but basically that's it. Since I retired, I really enjoy what I do. And I did do some. I don't know if you know, I did consulting work for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did consulting
when I
work
was
and,
here.
clinical, what's called clinical engineering. I did there, as well as what they call now clinical asset management. Because a lot of that changed. A lot of that changed. Some of the nomenclature, some of the way that they mentioned biomedical. Now they call it clinical engineering. And
why did they change it from biomedical? Because clinical doesn't sound as related to me, knowing all my life what you did. Clinical doesn't sound as related to biomedical in the way that in my mind I'm thinking when you say biomedical, the body, but clinical doesn't necessarily.
It doesn't. And I honestly don't know exactly why we changed it. It began to change in the late '70s, early '80s. It began to change, but I'm not sure. Um, Came up with a clinical engineering journal in the '80s and that sort of thing. I didn't do it. That was a magazine called Clinical Engineering Journal. So I don't really know, but bio means life, you know. So that's it. And I do have a lot of allergies. That's why.
Yeah. I'm reminded that I'm over here where I get allergies real bad in the springtime.
Yeah.
It hadn't hit me yet, but
basically that's it. And I enjoy communication. I'm an amateur radio operator and have been for 55 years now. Same year you were born, that's when I started, 1970.
I don't know why you say 55. I'm 35 this year.
Yeah, I know.
Let me put my business
I
out
enjoy
there.
that. And it is not citizen band. Oftentimes people see the antennas on a vehicle. Oh, you see it? No, that's not citizen band. That's amateur radio.
So for the people who don't know the difference between ham radio operator and CB operator,
what's the difference?
What's the difference?
One of the differences is that in order to be an amateur radio operator, you have to pass a technical test. To be a CB operator, you're going to pick up a radio and start talking and sounding silly.
But you're not on the same frequency.
No, we're not on the same frequency. And that sort of thing. But some people like CD. I never cared for it. Amateur radio operator is worldwide communication. I've talked to potentates and kings and that sort of thing over the years. But normally, just regular people, men and women who enjoy radio communication. Now, in radio communication, not just talking anymore. We do video, we do digital, several areas of digital. I do digital back here. I can do television, that sort of thing from my station.
So can you do? You can be seen. Can you be seen and not be seen on the other side? Can they can see you when you do your. What is it that you do in the morning every morning when you get up?
Okay, that's called the morning group. I'm monitoring a group in the morning called the morning group, and what it is just ham radio operators from around the world, quite frankly. Now, most of the time, it's people in here in the United States and Canada, and sometimes Hawaii, and that sort of thing. And I'm the coordinator for it. It's called a controller. It doesn't mean that I control anybody. It's just we try to keep it moving because sometimes I'll have 18 or 20 people check in with me. So we take turns making our comments and with that. And what do we talk about? Anything we want to talk about. And
how long does it cuts off at? Because you start by a certain
time.
Well,
we normally do from 8 a.m. Eastern time or 7 a.m. Central time for about an hour. But sometimes it goes over. It depends on what we're speaking of, what the activities are, how many people stop by, that sort of thing. So we normally have it for around an hour. And this is what makes ours different. On a lot of them, it's just straight You check in, you get some Mickey Mouse number, and then they come back to you and you say 2 words and you're gone. That's not what we do. Also, one of the other things I dislike about a lot of the nets, they seem to be segregated nets. In other words, the good old boys are over here, and the black guys are over here, and the Canadians are over there, that sort of thing. But that's not what we do. We have everyone, and I'm not saying that everybody does that, but when I do the preamble on ours, I say exactly what I mean. This is an open type deal. We don't care if your ancestry is European, Asian, African. Well, I don't care if you're from Mars or Jupiter. I don't care where you're from. I don't care if you're black, white, blue, green, yellow, orange, polka dot, pink. I don't care anything about your skin tone. That doesn't have anything to do with it. And we're respectful to each other. One of the other things that we don't do in radio, as with anything nowadays, we all want to talk about each other and that sort of thing. We want to denigrate people. Well, I don't denigrate people. Now, I don't take it as crap either. So the thing is that I let the people know that if you are one of those that want to come in here calling names and making racist remarks and that sort of thing, we will not respond to you. Simple as that. We just will not argue with you and won't respond. We'll just ignore you and go on.
Because there's no way to like cut that person.
No,
there's
that's
no
not.
way to cut them out.
That's not.
Now, how do people find your group? Where do they go to find?
There's several different ways. Most times it's word of mouth. The guys and the ladies on the radios, of course, they just tell each other. However, and I forgot the name of it now, but there's a program that amateur radio operators use that not show all, they show all of the registered groups, and they look on there and they see they call it the morning group. Okay, and that's how the word gets out. But most of the time, the word is by word of mouth. People really enjoy it. They really enjoy it. We have people from all walks of life in there, and I know you were about to ask me something. We have people with all walks of life. We have truck drivers, over the road truck drivers. We have a combat pilot in there from Vietnam, from Vietnam era. We have commercial pilots. We have medical doctors. We have PhDs, farmers, cooks. You name it. There.
So where do they find? Okay, let's say I have my license, and I want to get on. Where do I go to get on to find you guys at 7:00 Central Time?
It's called the 40-meter band. Okay, there's a number of bands on the radio. Well, of course, if you look at the spectrum from daylight to DC to daylight, of course, there's all kinds of spectrum. Well, but a number of assigned bands. Where we operate is called the 40-meter band. There's a number of bands: 40 meters, 10 meters, 20 meters, 15 meters, 17 meters. 80 meters, 160 meters. 160 meters is like if you listen to AM radio, regular broadcast radio, it's right next to it. It's where that is. Okay. But we're actually on the 40-meter band, and that's 7.147 megahertz.
So that requires a certain type. You can't just log in and turn on your radio.
You just can't pick up a radio.
You have to have a certain type of radio.
Yeah, you have to have a radio. It doesn't have to be a ham radio, but you have to have a radio where you can pick up shortwave.
Shortwave.
And it has to be on what we call single sideband. That's another story itself. The double sideband, there's AM, FM, CW, you name it.
So 40 band. So when I put the little caption on the thing, but you'll just send me the text so I know what to put on there. Yeah. Just in case anybody who happens to be, catching the podcast, if they want to sign in.
40-meter band.
40-meter band. And what's
you have to be licensed.
Of course, you got to be licensed. So what's the group is called what?
The morning group.
Just the morning group.
Just the morning group. Okay. That's it.
All right.
Nothing fancy.
So that's what I call your Facebook. Your version of Facebook, but it's been around, like I said, since I was a little kid.
You speak of Facebook. Of course, I'm on Facebook, but I don't do very much on Facebook. I don't even respond to that stuff because too much of it is Mickey Mouse. I don't deal with Mickey Mouse stuff.
No, y'all don't deal with Mickey Mouse on the radio, on the ham radio?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't deal with that stupidity. I don't deal with stupidity. Well, you know that. Of course, I know you're putting it out. But I don't deal with stupidity very well at all.
Okay, well, since we're on the time, you got an appointment, and we got a little bit of time. But I got a series of questions.
I doubt if he'll be here at exactly 5.
So these questions are going to be all over the place, but these are questions that you probably have answered before. But this second question has to do with my book, my autobiography.
Yeah.
And even though you left a review on Amazon, I don't think I've asked you in detail about my book.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear me right? You can hear me clearly?
Oh, go ahead. I hear you.
Okay, I'm just saying with you. Okay. So my question is, what did you think about my book and the chapters, how I went about chronicling my life thus far? What did you think about? Did I overshare? When you coming from your generation, and sometimes when I share on Facebook, you tell me, don't be putting all your stuff on Facebook. But because I am trying to be in this platform, there are things about my life as it pertains to who I am that may be uncomfortable for you to share from your generation, but for me, it's just say par for the course. So, what would you say about my book that you liked or didn't like?
There was nothing about your book that I didn't like. There was nothing about your book. Obviously, I'm biased because it was my daughter that wrote the book.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm biased. So let's get that out of the way. When I read through the book, I found the truth in there. The truth is there. Of course, I was there when you were struggling. I was there. I don't know of any real thing that I would say that you should not have done or should have done or whatever. Um, it's a book about the truth.
My truth.
Yeah, your truth.
Well, were there realizations, or maybe the way that I wrote from my perspective, that you hadn't maybe thought about?
No.
Nothing?
I know you very well.
Come on with that, man.
You very well.
There was nothing that surprised
No.
you. Now, not to say there were things in the book that you did not know. I didn't share. I haven't shared everything
nothing
with
surprised.
you, but yeah. Well, no, I'm not saying surprised, but I'm saying that gave you a different
perspective.
Yeah, well, that's what I said.
Because I know you. I've always known that you were an empath.
Okay, this is one of these other questions, and since you mentioned it, because this is like maybe 2 or 3 questions down. When I discovered it during COVID about myself, if this is something that you've known my whole life, and I say if, because I'm not convinced that you know this.
You calling your dad a liar?
I didn't say that, but I still. But so, Daddy, if you knew this about me my whole life, why didn't you share this with me? If you saw me struggling, you ain't never tell me I was an empath.
I most certainly did. Did I use that term? The answer is no. Okay. You remember the times when I would tell you about holding your head up and look straight ahead. Don't back down, and you remember those?
Well, yeah, but I also remember when you would say, "You're so damn sensitive. Why you so damn sensitive?" Yeah. But if you're asking if you know that I'm an empath, if you know that I'm a highly sensitive person, if I don't know it, did you realize that I did not know this about myself?
That's really a good question. See, I know your name. See, they don't know your name.
My name is Raye.
Yeah, I call you what I want to call you.
My name is Raye.
But the point is what I was attempting to do with you and all of my children was to prepare you for the world, because the world is not fair. People are not fair. And it doesn't matter if someone thinks that you're an empath or thinks that you're totally outspoken or what have you. They're not going to necessarily be fair to you. So sometimes we have to take our emotions and how we process things in our head, and we have to modify those in order to get along in the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it would be. I think that it would have been easier for me to let me say it like this: when you guys realized that Quincy was a diabetic at 10, I think he was 8, 9, 10 years old. Okay, around then. I remember I was like 8 or 9. So let's say you and Mama didn't tell him he was a diabetic, right? Let's say no. I'm saying this is how I'm trying to explain to you how I feel about me not knowing, whether you identified it or not, but me not knowing. Let's say you didn't tell Quincy that he was a diabetic. Y'all went through this, you figured it out, had the whatever made y'all go to the hospital to figure out that Quincy was a diabetic as a kid. I don't remember because I wasn't there. Well, I was there, but I was when you guys got the diagnosis. I remember it was during the summer, and I was in Virginia.
I was actually in Greenville then when the diagnosis came up.
Yeah, but I was physically I was in Virginia, and Mama came and got me, and that's how I found out. So during the summer, when you guys found out and it was the diagnosis, my point is, let's say you and Mama knew this about Quincy, right? Mm-hmm. You explained to him that he had to take medication twice a day, okay? But you didn't say to him, let's say you didn't say to him, you're taking this because you are now a diabetic. Let's say he didn't know that. I'm saying this is my hypothetical dad.
Okay, all right.
So let's say that he lived his life, let's say later on he found out or figured it out, like I did. But let's say you didn't tell him this. Don't laugh. And so he's living his life. I know I'm taking this medication. I know I can't eat sugar stuff anymore. I know I have to change I can't eat like everybody else is eating. Mm-hmm. And then let's say he comes back and says, "Well, Daddy, I just found out that I'm a diabetic." You like, "Well, Daddy, we knew all your whole life." But okay, well, why didn't y'all tell me that? I said all that to say, if you knew that I was an empath, mm-hmm. and you're trying to toughen me up by asking me, well, why are you so sensitive? If you know I don't know, then I think, and I'll ask, don't you think that equipping me with that knowledge would have helped me to understand myself better than me figuring it out at 50?
No. It may have. You make a basically a valid point. But my point is that putting a clinical name to something doesn't necessarily make you say or make you act the way you should act. I don't mean you personally, but it does not necessarily make you go down the straight and narrow road. If you look at your own brother with being a diabetic, no matter what he said, he still deviated off that road, even though he knew it was very dangerous for him.
Right.
Okay.
But he was equipped with the knowledge.
He was equipped with the knowledge.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because it could kill him, which it did. Okay. Yes. Now, with you, even when you went into the army, I was hoping that it would help you with your being able to just phase up with people. Can you phase up to people now?
Well, I did even in the military because they saw the leader in me, the boot camp and AIT, mm-hmm. so much so that they wanted me to help this person or go get the guide on. I was in the front of the line when we were doing marches.
Gotcha.
All of these things, and hey, you need to be a drill sergeant. And when one of the drill sergeants said that I should go to drill sergeant school, I laughed because I laughed not this. Well, actually, I laughed because I couldn't see myself breaking down people the way that I understood why they did it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see myself doing that to another person.
But I'm here to tell you that you can do it.
Well, I know I'm capable. Well, let's say it this way. When it comes to the military, there are a lot of things that I know that I would have to, and I was telling somebody that I know this in the military. I said, if I had chosen to be in the military, say, for 20 years, the person that I am would want to be, I can see myself, I'm somewhere in Afghanistan with my battle buddy, not around everybody else. Ideally, this would be my makeup. If I got to go to formation with everybody else, fine. And then the rest of the day, I'm up on a mountain with my battle buddy and we're calibrating and shooting and I'm on the highest clearance of if something happens, then we don't know you. One of those levels as opposed to doing as you say, the mundane and going to work every day with everybody else. But I also know, you and I both know, that being in the ranks that I would want to have for my personality requires, it's a cost.
Yeah.
A cost that I know I wouldn't want to have to pay. You understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Right. So that's why I said if I couldn't just be in and just be going to work every day and coming out and having to deal with the drill sergeants and the BS that happens on that level. So I couldn't stay in because I would want to be up somewhere where I have to make some decisions that I know I couldn't live with.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, okay?
Yes.
Now, my response to that is that when we're placed in positions of authority, most human beings have a tendency to do what they have to do in order to make sure that their job is done well.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what am I saying? I'm saying that when I became an officer in the Army and teaching in the biomedical school, okay, there were times when they, and hopefully this will go along with what you're asking. There are times when one of the students were not performing in the manner that they should be performing. And they had to come and face me in the office, one on one.
Right.
Okay. Did I take into account their personalities and what have you? Yes, I did. There were a lot of military officers that did not do that. Okay. What they wanted, and I'm not denigrating them either. What they wanted is you do what I say. And well, that's not the way I operated.
Yes.
And that's not the way I operated with my children. And I'm sure you can attest to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gave all of you the opportunity to make your own road.
No, but also even in that day, it was just that, and you gave us a lot of freedom. I will say that you gave us a lot of freedom to move around, maneuver, think for ourselves. Mm-hmm. But even when I remember asking you in my 30s, it was I guess about religion. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, you guys didn't like make us go to church, and you said, oh no, of course I know why you didn't make us go to church, but I said, well, you guys didn't. Most parents, when you think about family planning and having children, even still now, they'll say, well, what do you believe? Well, do you want them to go to church? If I'm Christian and you're Jewish, do you want them to go to synagogue or do you want to go? And so I guess I never ever, having asked you this question, when you and Mama, when you got us, or even when Chris was little, did you guys have conversations where, so are they going to go to school? Are they going to go to college? What do you want them to go to church? Did y'all have those kinds of questions between the two of you guys?
Yeah, and I'm fair to you, Mother. Yeah, but see, I'm a guy of a different ilk when it comes to that. I was forced to go to church and forced to bow down and well, you should have known not to ask me that question.
No, because I never asked that part, but I wanted to ask what you and Mama decided.
Forced to believe certain things, like something silly, and I don't mean to insult anyone. I really don't. Something that I thought was the silliest thing in the world. My parents were so brainwashed with that stuff that they believed that the religion would free them up when they died. Instead of having a decent life, they were worried about and hanging on to religion that had been taught to them by Europeans that made no sense for them. Okay?
Yeah.
And I rejected it, and I reject it to this day. Now, am I a spiritual guy in some ways? Yes, I am. But do I believe that Christ walked across the water? No, I don't believe that.
So Granddaddy and Grandmama, you would call them devout Christians?
Say again, please.
Would you consider your mother and father devout Christians?
No. Because they would say, well, God don't like ugly, then they go do ugly.
But did they consider themselves?
No, they did not.
They did not.
They did not.
Okay.
No, right. They did not. Their grandfather believed in God and whatever. Yes, he did. Yeah. Even though the many mistakes he made, just like the rest of us human beings. Of course, because he would say, well, the good Lord don't want me to do it, so and so. And to me, that's saying, I don't want to do wrong. Okay.
Right.
I don't need the good Lord or anybody else to tell me not to do wrong.
You know intrinsically when something's right or wrong.
So, and again, I don't mean any disrespect to anybody. I'm very respectful of people's religion.
Yes.
But don't try to push that off on me.
Yes.
Because it will not work.
Yeah.
As you know, that does not work. And I'm not trying to push it off on me because I think that people should be as religious as they want to be. But I don't believe in fairy tales. And believing in angels and that sort of thing, to me, it's a fairy tale. So, and I can't believe in that.
Now, we joke about the hate in my car, but so do you believe that there are spiritual beings that we cannot see?
I believe that there are things that happen that we don't understand. Yes, I do. I think
Okay. So you believe in
okay.
hate?
No, I don't believe in ghosts. No.
I said ghosts. I said hate.
You already been out there what hate is.
Well, that's
hate is a derivative of haunted.
Right. Well, okay.
Yeah. But no. Do I consider myself a decent man? Yes, I do.
I believe you are,
Yeah.
too, Daddy.
Oh, you know I am.
I said I believe that. Believing is a conviction.
Yeah. I'm just doing an explanation here.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, do I try to teach things that I don't believe in? No, I don't. I'll tell you about them, but I don't try to teach something.
So, what was the conversation when we were little about our planning our future as much as you guys did? What was the conversation between you and Mom about?
Okay, yeah, you're gonna make me say things I don't want to say now. Okay, all right. I'm gonna say it.
You don't have to say it one time.
I'm gonna say it. Okay, here's the thing. When your mother and I were raising you guys were small. There were no questions about whether you were going to church or whatever. Your mama didn't go to church either. Okay, now she had to go when she was young. I've known your mother since she was 5 years old. Yeah. And I was 6. Yes. Okay, so we were forced to go to church. Mm-hmm. It's just like we were forced to sing, I wish I wasn't a land of cotton. Dixie, Yes. So we were forced to do all that stuff.
Craziness.
But there was no discussions about, well, the kids need to go to church. My discussion, if you'll remember, was that I encourage you to read about these things. I encourage you to look at religions and etc. So you can make up your own mind. Do you remember that?
Well, I remember the books being around, but like I said, not having that part of because if I had remembered that, it wouldn't have been a conversation in my 30s to say, well, Daddy, you never did, and because that's when you said, oh no, there were books around, and I gave you guys books and access to
I encourage you.
But that was just I'm starting to think that just because I think it's to no fault of your own, but the way that you were raised and the way that grandmama and granddaddy raised you and grandmama until she passed away, you were 10. Mm-hmm. So I think that just is they didn't have adult conversations.
No, they didn't.
They didn't have. It was just basically, we're gonna do it. You're gonna pay attention. You're gonna do what I say.
You're gonna do what I say.
So I think that just same way that kind of Mama had mentioned, children live what they learn. I'm starting to understand that your way of teaching us or letting us turn out the way that we have, think for ourselves and figure it out. Figure it out was providing books, but not to say, because I can't speak for Chris and Quincy, but for me, I know that there were books around, but the same way that if you had just said, maybe I just needed that, hey, by the way, I'm not going to make up your mind for you. I figured it out. But I'm saying, hey, there's a book over here on such and such. Hey, if you want to know about this, read over. You said you did. But you did it. But that part of, hey, I just want to let you know, just in case you don't know why I got all these books that are still there that I can still come over here and read it anytime I want.
See, I'm a weird guy. I don't believe in spoon feeding. Okay.
Well, then that's valid. Thank you for the validation. Was my childhood? No, so that's what I'm saying. The older that I've gotten, I hadn't thought about it in my 30s, but when I thought about it and knowing, like I said, knowing that grandmama left when you were little and granddaddy was there as much as he was, and then grandmama Roseby when she showed up, I get it why you did things the way that you did them.
Yeah. Now I was a rebel. Quite frankly, I was never a bad kid. I did, like I said, and your grandfather could have. I guess he confirmed it. I was not a bad kid. Mom, of course, look, had 2 different mothers. My biological mother, as you obviously know, passed away when I was about 9 years old.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mama sent us to church. We went to church.
Mama Sally.
Grandma Sally,
Yes.
she was called. That's not her name, but
Yes.
her name was Cornelia. But anyway,
Uh-huh.
she was known as Sally. Okay.
Yes.
We had to go to church. Okay. Now, where were they? They were at home. We, the kids, had to go to the church.
And so you as little Marvin was like, what the hell?
Yeah, what the hell is this? You know.
So when but I do remember Uncle Buddy was a Catholic when he died. We went to a Catholic church.
It was Catholic. No, he didn't go to Catholic school. What happened was the lady he married, young Raye,
Yeah.
they were Catholic. It's like Andre. Andre, another one of my sons, of course. Andre goes to Catholic churches now.
Oh, okay.
Well, he raised as a Baptist.
Right. That's some love, ain't it?
I can say a whole lot of things about growing up, but growing up was not easy 70 years ago and 80 years ago. It was not easy for black folks, especially in the South. It was not easy. We were so pointed towards not believing in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We were told, and I don't mean to attack anyone. Again, my apologies, but the preachers would get us up and tell us, "Don't be so proud." Well, that's the stupidest thing that you can tell a child.
Well, do you understand? Do you think that came from slavery?
Yeah, okay, that's where it came from.
Yeah.
You could get your ass killed
Right.
by being proud.
Yes.
Even when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why your grandfather was so afraid for me, because here these white folks working in the field with us, and I'm supposed to call him Mister? Oh, hell no. Hell no. He's working right along beside me.
Did they ever call you boy?
They tried. It worked. It did work.
But wait, so why was Granddaddy more afraid for you and not Uncle Buddy?
Because I was outspoken.
And they weren't? Everybody else were not?
They were not.
Oh,
Not until now. Once Wiley, you call Uncle Buddy, of course I call Wiley. Now, once Wiley went in the military and that sort of thing, he was not afraid to say what he thought. Boys was the same way. Milton was the same way. We all were Sally. Sally was the same way. Once we got away from that slavery type mentality, we say what we think. Now, I don't set out to hurt people's feelings at all. I really don't. I try to be careful not to say things to hurt people. I really do. But when you come up and tell me that the sky is gray and I'm looking at a blue sky, I'm not going to let you get away with that crap. You're not going to tell me that I can't do what you can do simply because I have some African ancestry. Well, I got some white folks' ancestry also. Both my grandfathers are white. So don't tell me what I can't do. Yes. And that's the way I always looked at it. That's what I tried to impart to my youngsters.
Well, I think you did. I think you can attest to whether I'm a rebel or not, or
no, you're not a rebel.
I'm not a rebel.
No,
you don't think so?
No.
What? How would you describe your oldest daughter?
Yeah, my oldest daughter is a dyed in the wool empath. She's empathetic with everything and everybody, and most of the time she does well with it. Feelings, feelings are easily hurt about certain things. It depends on what it is. It depends on who it is. But if they piss you off, now you got a different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
They piss you off. You'll be just ready to fight as the guy in the street.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, why are you looking down? Look at the camera.
Yes, that's true. Well, everybody kind of podcast. You kind of
Quincy was somewhat empathetic. Also, Chris was, but he was more outspoken than you guys were. Yeah.
So when I asked you yesterday, was it yesterday I asked you this? Well, either way, when I asked you, I said the little girl that's in the videos that I sent you. Did you think that I would turn out the way that I have? And you said no. So what did you think? How did you think if it's not what I am now, what did you think I would turn out?
That's a tough question. As I told you yesterday, that's really kind of a tough question. Uh, what I was hoping was that you would not be a stand back type person. You know what I mean by that?
Standoffish?
No, not standoffish. Standoffish to me is kind of a negative term. Standoffish, you know, you can't
oh, yeah, person. Okay. Unapproachable.
I felt you would, I wanted to make sure that you were not uncomfortable about yourself. In other words, if you saw leadership and what have you, that you would put yourself in there. That's what I was hoping for.
And so do you
And that's why I encourage you all of these years. I've been encouraging you for years. Why are you not the leader in those things?
But you understand why in this particular one in the airport industry.
Yeah, what's your question now?
What? No, I'm saying in the industry that you see me being.
What industry is saying? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, for myself, let me ask you this: outside of corporate America, do you see me as a leader or a follower?
I see you as a leader.
So,
but you see yourself sometimes as a follower. Now you may disagree with that.
Yeah, because you're gonna wait a minute. You're gonna say you're gonna tell me what I see myself as, and then for me to
no, you misunderstood what I said.
You said you see yourself as sometimes as a follower.
No, I said you. Maybe I did. If I did, I misspoke. You act as a follower.
How so?
Because you do.
Give me an example.
I beg your pardon?
Give me an example.
I'm not gonna give you an example.
How you gonna say something like that and then not give me an example?
You been put all your business out in the street.
No. Then if I'm and look, what have you always taught me? Don't ask the question if you don't want to know what the answer is.
Actually, I think you make one hell of a leader. I really do. And it's because of your personality, because you don't want to hurt people, that sort of thing. Good leaders are not mean bastards. They're not. And I'm talking about both male and female.
Yes.
They're not mean. They don't. They're empathetic and they understand when someone makes an error or someone actually messes up or what have you, or if it's on the flight line, if it's making cookies or whatever, and you make an error. Don't go to the person like they're stupid.
Right.
Go to the person like they made an error.
Yes.
And don't make them feel bad. So, it depends on what it is. Okay, we'll fix this. Be careful. And did you learn something? Right. Did you learn anything? And you say, yes, I learned. Okay. If you keep making the same mistake over and over, now I'm going to put my foot in your ass then. Right. But good leaders are not fools like Trump. They're not. So that's not leadership. Right. So for me to be a leader, do I have to, as far as you're concerned, do I have to do that? Can I not be a leader for myself? And if I can, and I'm assuming you're gonna say yes, why can't when you say I can see you being a good leader, why not say I see you being a good leader? I can be leader of myself, no? Or you want me to be a leader of other people? Both. By definition, I guess. Can you be a leader and not have 10 people under you? Can't you still be a leader? Okay, it's an example. And again, some of your viewers may say, "Well, this guy's really stuck on himself." No, I'm not. I'm just confident. No, I'm confident. If I can say I can fly a jet plane backwards, you can bet your last dollar I can do it. Okay. And you know that. And that's I speak on what I can do. If I can't, then I say I can't do it. I'm sure you've noticed. If you didn't notice, you weren't paying attention. No matter where we went or what we were doing, if there was people standing around talking, even at family reunions, who did people gravitate to? Well, of course, if I'm saying with you. But people gravitate toward me as well. Yeah, that's my point. You just made the point for me. But so then for you to say, I think that you say that you think that I don't act like a leader, in what way? Why did I say that? When I said, you said you may not think so. You even first you said that I don't think of myself as a leader. If I said that was an error. Follower. You said sometimes you said I act like a follower. I think myself. So how many times have I encouraged you to get your behind out there and take leadership? So if I wait a minute, answer my question. We're talking about American Airlines. I don't care where you working at.
Well, before that, I was doing IT.
I don't care what you were doing.
But I was well, I wasn't leading, but I don't have a problem being a leader.
What?
I don't have a problem.
I thought you said power. You meant
no, I don't have a problem being. But this is to me. When you turn them up. So this is what I'll say about when you were more recently. You keep asking me about being a supervisor at for the airline, and of course I gave you all the reasons why at LAX why I did not want to,
and I didn't want to hear them. But go ahead.
With you being in management, and I'll ask you this: me being in the position as just an agent underneath the supervisor, first level underneath the supervisor. Most people thought that I was manager or thought that I was
exactly my point. You and I've talked about that many times.
Based on just me being myself. Now, if you're a passenger and you come up and you ask me, can you do something? Whatever it is. Oh well, my flight just got here. I know I'm 15 minutes late and I don't have pre-check, and I got this big ass bag, but can you still let me go? No, ma'am, you cannot. Who's your manager? Who's your man? I need to talk to somebody else. Okay. So even though I'm saying that with authority, no, you cannot. You want my job. But at the same time, if I say, oh, well, who's your I am the supervisor, ma'am. Now, if I turn around and change my hat and turn back around and say I am the supervisor, then that's okay for me to say. I feel like that's a
conundrum.
I mean, because I'm in this position, you as my manager are going to bring me in the office because a customer is complaining about me saying this. Well, no, but this is the case. But if I'm a supervisor, you're gonna have my back for saying the same thing.
Same thing.
So for me, it was hard for me to reconcile for American Airlines how, as a manager, and a lot of managers were wanting me to be a supervisor, but you're the first person that's going to put me in a suspension for saying the same thing at this level.
I got you. I understand what you're saying. Now listen to how I did it. Okay, being who I am and what I am, there have been many times when people call on the carpet about what happened. Well, I knew all the rules and regulations. I knew exactly what I was supposed to be doing. I knew exactly what the people that worked for me were supposed to be doing. I knew what my so-called supervisor's job was and exactly what he or she was supposed to be doing. Okay. When they called calling me on the carpet, they wound up on the carpet themselves because I knew exactly what the hell I was doing. Okay. And when you know what you're doing, I don't care who you're working for. You are the person that is correct. Many, many times, the vice president of my last employment would come to me or Marvin, so and so, and say, no, that's not what happened. And I'm not going to give any examples, of course. My point is you have to be confident in yourself. And when the customers whine and care, customers just whine to me about some of my staff. My staff are all engineers, and of course, I have some clerical staff. Customers want me. Joe came by here and he was working on this imaging machine or whatever the case might be, and I don't think he did it right. And I'm going, okay, well, tell me what parameters are off on it.
Well, if you're a different type of manager, they wouldn't. That's not happening where I
understand.
That's not happening.
I understand.
Yes, that's not.
But happening. I'm just saying that if even a line manager out on the floor, if you know exactly what everybody's job is, not the ones that work so-called for you, but the ones that you work for, all the way up to the president of the damn airline. If you know what they're supposed to be doing, then you can protect yourself a lot easier. Will you always be able to protect yourself? The answer is no.
No.
The answer is no.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Management is not easy. It's not. But if you are fair to people, as I was saying before, let me give your audience an example. At the last place I was employed at, when I first got there, they hated me. Didn't know anything about me, but they hated me because I'm black. Okay? All right? All white folks that worked in there. Okay?
Okay.
When I left there 10 years later, a number of them, and
Now, how did you know this? How did you know this, though, Daddy?
What?
How did you know that they didn't like you simply because they were black? They told you to your face.
My face.
That they didn't like you because you was black.
No.
So how did you know?
Come on.
No, I'm for my audience.
Well,
because
okay, for your audience.
Because if I said that.
For your audience.
I said that on the job.
Listen to me. You walk into a gas station to buy gasoline, okay, to pay for your gasoline or buy a cookie or whatever the case might be. And there's a redneck behind the counter. How do you know Can you tell?
Well, Daddy.
You probably can't.
I can't. No, I can't. No. But what I'm saying is, this conversation I'm trying to make privy to those who have said to me, even since I've been in Nashville and I've made an assessment based on how I grew up. Okay, no, nobody's walked in there and said, nigga. But at the same time, you walked in and called me a nigga. So for the people who are on the other side, white folks that I work with and work for me to point it out, which I have on paper, hey, this that happened. I can't say for sure that this person was a racist, but it walked like a duck and walked like a duck. So for them, probably in their mind, they're saying, well, how do you know that this person is a racist? So I'm saying,
well, let me ask you another question. Hopefully, I don't think I finished my thought.
Because I wanted you to tell me how you knew that they was racist. Not educate the people is what I'm saying. Have a conversation where it ain't just me. I'm saying that anybody who's looking at this.
Body language, having grown up in a racist society. Yes. You younger people did not go through that.
Oh, I did.
No, you didn't. Not
to your extent.
Let me finish.
Yes, sir.
Not to the level.
Yes.
That me and your mother and the rest of us went through.
Yes.
There is not a dog whistle that Europeans use that I don't know. I don't give a damn what they use as a dog whistle at all. I know what the dog whistle is because I grew up with it.
Right.
You guys did not grow up with that, so you'll miss some of those dog whistles.
Okay. I know a little of them. Maybe not to the. You remember when I got called nigga in school twice?
Yeah.
The same day. So I'm just saying, for those who live in different places where they not experienced racism, maybe someone who's younger than me. But when I say that to the camera is when you say you work somewhere, because corporate environment, it's like I feel gaslit when I point out, okay, well, I'm in here and because 3 white people who didn't get what they wanted from me, they all happen to complain on the same day, so it must be my fault. So I'm getting written up because number one, I did my job, or even if I made a mistake, it's not to the extent that you need to put me on a suspension or a level simply be. Oh, but you have to because this person was executive platinum. Oh, and the other person was okay. Well, but at the same time, let's not talk about the elephant in the room. But they still want what they want. And if you're a white guy that's of a certain age, you're not gonna really take too kindly to a black woman telling you what you cannot have.
You are in a different environment than I was in.
Absolutely.
And I understand that. Could I work in that kind of environment? The answer is no. I could not.
Oh my goodness.
I would not survive in that kind of. I don't mean deadly.
Right. Yeah.
I could not survive in that because I probably want to kiss my ass, and go on. But I was fortunate enough in all my career, including in the Army and what have you, to be in a situation where I had bad bosses,
Yes.
but I was smarter than they were. Did I ever get in there in trouble? No. Did I have to fight sometimes and go to the president? Yes, I did.
Right, over that person.
Right over the head.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure you didn't want to do that too often.
No.
Yeah. In trouble. But I understand what you're saying. And I could not work in that environment. And how are you folks work in that environment? I take my hat off to you because I could not do that. Yeah, with my personality, I could not do that.
Well, with my personality, since you know me,
yeah, it's difficult
to be in that position. Like I said, and so understanding the whole picture of you just saying, let me take it back to when I'm a kid. Why are you so sensitive? Me not knowing whether you know the answer to that question or not, or you're just asking it rhetorically.
You're forgetting one thing. Let me cut across. You're forgetting one thing about the sensitivity.
What?
What I used to tell you also is that you can't show your sensitivity out to other people in the world. I just tell you that.
This goes back to what I said, Daddy. If I'm not understanding, if you haven't equipped me with the knowledge of me being sensitive in a way.
Oh, so you said I failed you. Is that what you just said?
I'll say.
Wait a minute, is that what you just said?
Well, can I say it? Can I say it?
Go ahead.
In a way, yes, I feel like you did because, as I said, just say to me, why are you so sensitive? Whether you knew the answer to, let's say you knew the answer to that question.
I did try to tell you why. I did try to tell you.
No, I'm saying, Daddy, your perspective and me as a little kid or hearing it until, I was 30, you would still say, why are you stop being so sensitive? But I'm saying, so at 50, from living from 0
you're
to
forgetting
50.
I'm going to cut across you again. One of the things you're forgetting to tell your audience is that when I would tell you not to be so sensitive, I would tell you that people could use that against you. Learn how to control your sensitivity. I may not have said that in those exact words. Yes, I did.
Well, no, I'm agreeing that you didn't say it in those words. I didn't hear it that way. Mm-hmm. All I heard was you're asking me a question that I can't answer because I'm thinking that's like, to me, you asking me why I'm so sensitive is like somebody asking me, well, why are you a black man? You're saying that wrong too. What? What's that? Did I say why are you so sensitive? Sensitive or don't be so sensitive? No, you would anything that I would do. Let's say I would do something, or I would break down and cry, or I would come to you with a complaint or an odd or something hurt my feelings. Something hurt my feelings. Why you so? Don't be so sensitive. Don't be so sensitive, or it would be either one. Don't a command or a question. So as a kid, like if I came to you and I said something and you said, "Well, don't be so sensitive," I wouldn't say to you, "Well, I don't know how," but internally I would be like, "But that's who I am. I don't know how not to be me." Yeah. So me going. Perhaps I failed, but all I was trying to do was prepare you for the world. Now, let me ask you a question. The people out in the world give a shit that you're sensitive? I think that the answer is no. No, I'll say. Well, I think that's a generalization. The way you're asking the question, but I can say specifically, people who have taken the time to know me, seeing me at work. Let's say for the 6, 7, 8 years that I was in LA, and for people to see me pop off. Let's say you piss me off. Now I've been kind. But you got me to the point where you're standing beside me and you're somebody, let's say you just came to work and you don't know me as a human being to know that I'm soft and I'm sensitive. But I'm at work and I'm dealing with an asshole and I'm not the kind of person to just acquiesce and be like, yes, okay, so that if you see me as my coworker say something back that maybe is smart, maybe it's not wrong, it's just, oh my God, did you really just say it? Yeah, you're a human being. Like, I have feelings, you have feelings. And if I've said something maybe that's offended you, then you don't see my sensitive side. You just see me as, hey, I am known for speaking my mind, being opinionated, being matter of fact, and saying what's on my mind. Okay. Sound like me. Well, I'm saying that does not equate to necessarily as a highly sensitive person. Sure it does. No, I'm saying to most people. Listen to me. You've been doing all the talking, though. Be quiet. It's my show. Do you know that your father's very sensitive? Yes, but I didn't know that always growing up. Yeah, I know. I'm very sensitive. My feelings can be hurt in a drop of a hat. But it's not necessary. But what I'm saying is it's not evident. It's not always evident. It's not always evident. No, because I'm learning how to control it. So if you see me being the leader that I am and just dealing with work, and the sensitive side of me is at home. The sensitive side is I got to go home and take this and smoke a joint. Kill the cat. I got to go home and chill out and turn my phone off and regroup. No, that's not what I mean. But no, I'm saying this is factual because of when you ask the question, do I think that most people see that side? I think that Prior to me writing my book, and this is testimony, there was a lady that I worked with before she read my book. We didn't really have much interaction. We worked beside one another for a while, but there was no talk about family or anything like that. So when my book came out, and most people found out that I had the book, sometimes I had a copy I would give to someone or they giving me the money for it. This lady, she claimed that she was going to get the book, and then she said, "Well, I don't really know how to go and I'll get my son." I went on vacation. I came back, and during the time that I left and was on vacation for a week or whatever, she read my book. What she said to me when I came back, and she said, "Oh, I read your book." And I said, "Oh, you read my book?" And she says, "I did not like you before I read your book, based on how she seen me pumping all that. Not the sense she didn't see the sense of the. She would if somebody had told her for $1,000,000, I bet you raised a sensitive person. She'd be like, hell no."
But see, you just named the problem of the entire world.
But when she said, once she read my book, the same book that you read, she said, once I read your book, she said, I have the utmost respect.
Get my drift for what I said. That's what's wrong with human beings today, is that we worry about how someone else acts or thinks or what have you. What I'm saying, I'm probably screwing that up. What I'm saying is the reason that human beings cannot go along with each other worldwide, while we can't go along with each other, we're so set in our own thought process about how or what someone should think. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that is going to cause the demise of human beings because we have not learned in all these hundreds or thousands of years how to accept people for who and what they are.
But you couldn't see my sensitive side from not working at the airport.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about human nature.
Right.
Human beings, okay?
Yes.
Now, my point is that I should not have had to try to prepare you for the world that's insensitive because you're sensitive. I should not have had to do that. But you find this yokel over here that does not like the way you walk.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And because you don't walk the way that they think you should walk, they're mad at you. They think you're not worthy.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
That is going to be the demise of human nature. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Now, my point to your audience is, and somebody, what's wrong with this guy? Nothing. I'm just telling you.
What do you think they think so wrong?
As long as human beings cannot get along with each other for 15 minutes at a time, even 10 folk can't get along with it. They're arguing and cussing and fighting each other.
Yeah.
Because you don't see it the way I see it, I don't see it the way you see it, so you must be wrong, I must be wrong.
Yeah. No, you're wrong.
Yeah. That's my point. So this is why I personally try not to judge people. I do. I try not to judge people. Now, having to raise my children, I had to do what I thought was right. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think I did a fair job.
No, you did. It just made me wonder that part. Like, well, okay, if you not, that's why I said, how did you know? And you said you can't take it back because you said it's a good question. If you knew that I was a sensitive person, and I understand you were preparing me, but I guess just why not
explain it to you?
Yeah.
I just didn't think to explain it to you. That's my fault.
So
you feel better?
No.
But it's the truth. But it's the truth. We all make mistakes. Just think about the mistakes that my parents made trying to raise us. Yeah. Telling us that we were less than white folks and telling us we had to be careful to do this and telling us all this other bullshit that we had to put up with.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I learned not to do that.
I get it. I get that.
You've actually done pretty good. You've actually carried yourself pretty damn good.
I try.
Okay.
Well, I think that has to do with me being and very I recognize. I know. Very I think I'm very introspective. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Did you see that as a child?
Yeah.
As me being introspective. What does that look like as a kid to be introspective though?
Theresa, a question like that I don't know how to answer.
Well, how
just
see
it?
But how do you see it, Daddy?
Look.
I don't think that's a hard
fed you,
question.
I held you, I changed your diapers, I knew how you acted. It's just like the time when you got mad because I wouldn't pick you up and you were 10 or 11 months old. You got mad. I knew that you had food, you weren't sick, but you cried and hooped and hollered because I wouldn't pick you up and let your ass lay right there. And after a while, you calmed right down. I would not pick you up. You told me later on, you made up, Dad, that was a child abuse. It was letting you know that you could not have your way. But I made sure that you were safe and sound and with nothing wrong.
So that was spoiled. So I was spoiled?
You were spoiled because your mom used to sit there and hold you all the time. Put that baby down.
No, you would hold me too, right?
Yeah, I would hold you. I wouldn't sit there. No, I'm not gonna do that. No, you cried your little eyes out. Ooh, that's screaming at Carol. Okay, bye. And after a while, you were asleep. You know, you told me later on when I told you about your dad. That was child abuse or something. No, it wasn't. Child abuse. People sit around and hold the babies and making a mistake.
That's child abuse.
Yeah. Holding them every 5 seconds. Let them teach them to go out and do anything alone. Like when you fell off the bicycle. I didn't run over there and grab you and make sure you were okay. And when you were trying to learn how to skate and falling and carrying on, did I try to catch you? No.
Yeah, you were.
No, I didn't.
You were holding me. I got proof. You didn't see it.
Taking the bit.
No, I'm gonna show you when we finish. Okay. There's a video of Mama holding you. Where you was holding me up.
You're so busy trying to out-talk your father. I'm talking about when I was standing there. Oh,
you're talking about when you were filming it.
When I was filming you guys, I was cracking up.
Yeah.
And also when you and Quincy were telling me, well, Dad, you can't skate. I said, no, I never learned to skate. Nanny, boo-boo, you can't skate. And I took the two of you, said, come on, guys, get in the car. And I took it outside of Aurora, out to a little turnaround where they had a dirt road. Said, put your skates on. Okay? Put your skates on. Well, don't you remember it? I said, skate.
I don't remember that.
You couldn't skate. Well, you were only about 4 years old. I said, skate. Dad, you can't skate on that. I said, what I'm trying to tell you is that's where I grew up at. Help me have no damn skates out of the country. Now, your grandfather could skate because when he was a boy, he grew up in Wilson. In Wilson, North Carolina. He could skate.
Yeah.
Okay? But we didn't know how to skate. None of us know how to skate. How the hell are you going to skate on rocks?
On rocks. On dirt. Yeah.
My point is that was the difference in then and way back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got
you. You got that?
I got you.
Yeah. The audience, she's crazy about her dad. Don't let her fool you.
Anyway. Everybody already knows that. Okay, let's see. Let's get these questions. Oh, I did. So, Daddy, when I took the test, when you had me, do you remember when you had me when I came to Waco?
Mm-hmm.
Something before my senior year.
Oh, yeah.
Out there, and you had me sit down and take that personality test. Again, you didn't tell me why you wanted me to take that test, and I didn't. I don't think I
can tell you why.
See, so can you tell me why you wanted me to take that test?
I wanted to call it temperament disorder. I wanted to find out how you think and what have you.
Okay.
I found out, and it matched what I thought.
So, have you had all of my siblings take this test?
Say again, please.
Have you had all of my siblings?
Yeah, all of them. Let's see. Yeah. I don't know if Marcel took it.
Moran and Emily Moran.
Yeah, that's all.
They've all taken it. Yeah. That same book. You gave me the book.
I'm not going to show it to you, but yeah.
No, I know where the book is.
That's not his book.
What you talking about?
I'm talking about the actual results.
Oh, yes they are, because I know.
Oh, okay. What, don't you go out and get my damn book.
Oh, I don't know you. Oh, I don't know. I'm not saying I don't know what their temperaments are. I don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it would help me.
It
would help me to understand them more than I do. Yeah. So why would you not want me to understand their temperament?
It's your business. That's my business.
They're my siblings.
So. I do it on your own. I'll show them to you. You already know how that. Next time you come, I'll show them to you.
You know how that turned out.
That guy's not you yet. Now he's pissing me off.
What do you mean fine? Yeah,
Oh no, it's not this. I looked at the clock.
See how you about you that human that you was just talking about.
Yeah, you know when I get aggravated, dog.
No, you still got.
I'm looking at about 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay, well, I may have to cut some.
I'm looking at the clock. That's my wife.
Okay, I did ask you that question. Okay, this is a good question. See, since you and I have been talking about relationships my whole life. You gonna laugh. How you laughing already? Okay, so given everything that we talked about,
be careful what you ask now.
Listen to my question. Given everything that we talked about today, my empath, being an empath, my sensitivity, you know how you raised me to be independent. Would you say you raised me to be a very independent person? And I think that's bitten me in the butt a few times when it comes to relationships. Yeah.
It depends on who you're trying to deal with. Because see, weak men are afraid of very independent women. Okay. So, given my personality, are you surprised? Are you really surprised that I'm still a single woman? No. Why are you not surprised? I just answered the question a moment ago. You've been listening. Many men are afraid of strong, independent women. Many men, okay? And you're a little too picky. I'll say that. You're a little too picky. Now, that's not news to you. You heard me before. But given what I have to pick from, it's not much. So then how you can't have it both ways. You can't say I'm too picky, but given what I have to choose from, like what type of man do you see me? Well, let me ask you a question. See me with? I'm gonna turn this around. You don't want me to answer that question because I will. I do. Okay. All right. I'll answer the question. Can I be a difficult person sometimes? In what way? Are you really one? Can I get stubborn? Yes. I'm not a mean person. No. Is that correct? Yeah, I agree. But I can use words to cut very deep if you piss me off. Is that correct? Yeah, I've not been on the recipient end. I know. I don't mean towards the children. I can get harsh with the children also. Yeah. Okay. Now, am I easily manipulated? I wouldn't think so. No. I have to be careful with how I'm going to say this. I'll say it this way. That is why some ladies that have been in my life could not deal with me. Okay? They couldn't push me around and help me to do what they wanted me to do. Now, I don't mind if you want a flowered dress instead of a pastel. I don't mind that. But when you start telling me how I should act and what I should do and that sort of thing, that's not going to happen. Okay? So that is what has happened between me and some ladies, okay? The lady that you know upstairs now, okay, don't have that problem, all right? Because she knows not to try to change me from whom and what I am. What I tell you is that you're not going to find a perfect person. You know that. But you think I'm looking for a perfect person? Did you just hear what I said? I'm not looking for one, though, Dad. What did I just say? I'm not going to find one. You're not going to find one. And I said, what? I said, and you know that. Yes, okay. I do. All right. However, you need to try to find someone who is as much like you are as possible. Okay? Now, there are going to be differences. You may like to go that way, and he might like to go that way. But you can compromise and go that way. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. All right. I'm cool with that. Right. Okay. But now, most men, I'm telling you now, men will just, that's not true. You're telling the damn lie, it's true. The fact is that most men do not like to say that I caved in to what the woman wanted me to do. And it's still that way today. And it's built into us. Our egos get in the way. Okay? But if he's like me, though, wait a minute. Let me finish. You answer this question, okay? But yes, sir. Our egos can get in the way. What men have a difficult time with is taking control of their egos and say, oh, okay, all right, you like it brown, but they brown. I prefer blue. We'll do it your way.
Okay.
Most men have trouble doing that. If you can find a person that you can compromise with, don't expect them to be exactly, and I know you don't, they're exactly the way you are. But because I don't care, I've heard people say, my wife and I, my woman and I, we never had an argument. You're talking a damn lie.
Never had what?
Never had an argument. You never had a disagreement. You're talking a damn lie. Because you don't always see things exactly the same.
With the divorce rate being as high as it is, there's a lot of people having disagreements.
And Madonna and I, do we sit around and argue about it? No, we don't. Do we disagree? Absolutely.
So, Daddy, I asked you, what type of man do you see me with? Why do you think
you don't want me?
I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I want to ask the question if I didn't want you to tell me.
Okay, I'm going to tell it. You know what I'm going to say. No?
I have no idea what
you're looking for somebody like your father, you're not going to find it.
Oh,
yes, you are. You asked me a question. Now you're going to tell me that. Now you're telling me that the answer's wrong.
Well, wait, Dad. You said you're saying two different. You're saying that I am looking for somebody like me, or I need someone that's like me.
Listen to what I said.
I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
I heard you.
Could you ever control me when you were a kid?
I'm not sure.
I didn't ask me that.
See, but what's the name of my question?
When you follow my person, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm right.
No.
Okay. Now, do you look for a partner that has his own mind and will stand firm on what he believes in?
Absolutely.
So why haven't you found anybody?